Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Money Goddess podcast. I am so excited to have our beautiful, lovely Lorraine Maz here. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Love your platform, love what you do. And I'm actually going to just share a little bit more about her. If you are new to what amazing things she does, Lorraine is a feminine abundance content creator and a coach. She went from broke to abundance within 1 year. Oh my gosh, that's everything. Like, I love that. She utilized feminine habits and biblical principles. Her mission is to empower women that it's never too late to change your life, and it doesn't have to be hard. Welcome, Lorraine.
Thank you so much for having me, Jasmine. I'm so excited for our conversation. I just love talking about things femininity, abundance, and money. So I'm so excited to dive into it.
Yes, yes, it's going to be an amazing opportunity for people just to learn more about what you do and how they can live the luxury life that you have created in just like a very soft, feminine way. And whenever I was learning more about you, what I loved is your story in terms of you and your family, like you guys were immigrants from Zimbabwe, correct?
Yes,
And you
that's
guys came
correct.
into the UK. Like, what was that transition like as an immigrant? Because I don't know what that feels like in terms of money. What did it do to you, and how did it make you like want to change your life as well?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Zimbabwe, which is in Africa. So when you're growing up and you're watching the Western world, like the UK or the US on TV, and you're thinking that is the dream, that is the Western dream, that's where you want to end up.
Mhm.
Not that I grew up poor or anything like that. We were quite comfortable considering the fact that we were in Africa. I went to boarding school.
Mhm.
I had a relatively comfortable life. So my parents at the same time wanted more. I think they thought coming to the UK will give them a better way of life. And there were just certain limitations in Zimbabwe. And as a child, I think I was about 10 at the time. I just didn't really understand, like, why do we have to leave? I've got my
Mhm.
friends and everything, but at the same time, I was so excited about just the possibilities of being in the Western country and meeting new people and all that kind of stuff. Um, because growing up in Africa, you're not exposed to a lot of rich and wealthy people. You
Mhm.
have like a ceiling of what you think success kind of looks like. So you think, you go to school, you have a semi good job, and you get married and have kids, and that's it really. Um, and then coming here and then just seeing people, in these amazing houses, cars, lives, and it just broadens your mind and your possibilities. Um, so yeah, it was very exciting coming to the UK as a child, and just the possibilities that came with it.
Mhm. Yeah, I can only imagine like what that transition was. And I also kind of remembered you talking about how it made you kind of like hustle a little bit more. Like, um, can you like share how you turned that hustle like off and into more of femininity? Like, what made you do that? What brought you to this place?
So that hustle, I call it the immigrant hustle mentality. It's something that I realized when I was on the other side, that it's something that I had.
Mhm.
So again, growing up in Africa, you grow up in poverty, surrounded by poverty, people, struggling, people going without. And money is always at the focus of conversation in the house or everywhere you go, like how there isn't a
Mhm.
lot of it, how you have to be, you know, You shouldn't be wasteful of money. So I always had that at the back of my mind, when I was growing up, that you have to work hard. That was really instilled in me as a child, that you have to work hard in order to have money. That success equals hard work, and there isn't a lot of money to go around. So if you want to have money, you kind of have to compete for it. So you need to compete to get into the best school, into the best university,
Mm.
into having the best job, into getting the promotion. And then also that people who look like me, when I say look like me, I mean like a black woman,
Mhm.
um, aren't successful, because I didn't really have a lot of examples of that. So when I came to the UK, I unknowingly had that hustle mentality in me, that I worked really hard. From school, I was always an A-star student. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, but I didn't end up being a doctor. But I did work in healthcare,
Mhm.
and I worked my way up the ladder really quickly. Within a year, I was in a very senior role in my career, and surrounded by a lot of white men,
Mhm.
and again, that made me want to show that I deserved to be in that position, because there weren't a lot of people who looked like me in those roles. So that really brought out a lot of like masculinity out of me,
Mhm.
just in the way that I spoke, in my behavior. I would bring work home. I never used to like switch off. I had my work email connected to my phone. That's how bad it was, that I would respond to work emails in the middle of the night, and you know, I I
Mhm.
wouldn't switch off, and like the way that I was at work started spilling over into who I was at home, in my relationship with my friends and family, just in how I lived in general, and even how I approached my own personal goals. It was in a very masculine way. I had to be a go-getter, and it was just exhausting, and I didn't realize it at the time. I just thought, this is what life is, and if you want to be successful, this is kind of like what you have to do. And how I switched off, it just it I kind of fell into it. So I fell pregnant. Well, before that, my mom passed away in 2020. Everything kind of happened at the same, one after the other. And then I fell pregnant in 2021, straight after that. Went to the whole depression,
Mm.
and I went on maternity leave, and I had my baby, and she completely changed me as a person. I became a softer person. I wasn't that, maternal or nurturing. She brought that side out of me. And I thought, oh, I'm supposed to go back to work. I don't want to leave my daughter. I don't want to go back to that place. It's when I started realizing what a toxic environment it was, and what it brought out of me. And I
Mhm.
didn't like that version of myself, and I knew that by going back, I didn't have the right tools and the mindset at the time to be able to cope in that environment and still maintain the softness that I had kind of like developed.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
decided to quit without a plan, really. So I'd again not only become pregnant, but also become a single mom at the same time. So
Oh.
I um I'd quit my job. I didn't have any savings. It wasn't a planned pregnancy, so I was broke essentially. I was in debt, and I also couldn't afford to put my daughter into daycare to be able to go back to work anyway, even if I wanted to. So
Mm.
I had to quit,
Yeah.
you know. And in that moment, I thought, oh, so what am I going to do then? How am I going to make money? But there was like something in me uh, that just told me to be still. Like I don't know where it came from, and I don't know if you've heard the if you heard the verse, be still and know that I am God. I used to remember just reciting that over and over and over and over and over again. Had no plan, and I'd started YouTube whilst I was working as like a creative outlet. Because again, it was a very like busy and toxic environment. I just wanted something just to like, just a passion to follow. So I was doing, fashion content. I was doing like body maintenance content,
Mhm. Mhm.
things that I enjoy. So I thought, okay, I'm going to pursue YouTube 100%. But because I had changed. I didn't want to pursue that kind of content anymore. So I
Yeah.
just started talking about where I was mentally and what I was going through and my life.
Yeah.
And a lot of women kind of resonated with that. There was like a soft life trend at that time. So I done my
Mhm.
version of it, and a lot of people kind of resonated with that video. And I thought, oh, okay, people seem to care about what I have to say and my thoughts. And I just kind of continued from there. And then I had a few people reach out to me to say, I really love your approach. Do you coach? And I thought, I don't, but I could. Um, and then that's how I started my coaching business. Learned, I was self-taught, taught everything. Sorry, I taught myself everything that I know about coaching and business, but a lot of it was transferable skills because I did work in healthcare, in
Yeah.
mental health to be specific. And then having a sort of managerial role, you do kind of have a lot of coaching aspects to that as well.
Mhm.
So and then that's kind of like how it happened in terms of like I didn't panic and think about let me go get another job. I
Mhm.
just leaned into the abundance that I knew was going to come. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but that's there was still a lot of difficulty within that, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, a bit later. My broke to abundance in 1 year journey it wasn't that seamless. Business is very unforgiving, and I soon found out that it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. But that's essentially the beginning of the transition.
Yeah, like you have such a beautiful journey. Like I'm one of those people, I connect with people's stories. Like I got teary-eyed, just hearing it and all of those things that, you went through. So just a little bit like about my story, how it might relate to yours is my father passed away when I was 9, and my mom had to actually raise my sister and I by herself. So that when you told me you were a single mother, it just did something to me because that idea of a single mother still being abundant and trusting in God and trusting in the divine, like that has a special place in my heart because that's what my mom had to do as well. And so hearing you say that makes me want to empower more women who, whether they wind up single for whatever reason and it's not a part of what they really wanted, but knowing
Yeah.
that God still hears them, God loves them. And also, I even told my husband, I said, somebody's going to snatch up Lorraine real quick. She
Amen.
very soon, I'm telling you, like it's definitely going to happen because you can't be out here on YouTube and all these other places looking amazing and just speaking life like somebody's gonna get you.
I receive it, Jasmine. I receive it.
Absolutely. I love that. And I know with your story of broke to abundance, I've been in business for over 8 years, and I know what you meant when you said unforgiving. Like I have gone on a roller coaster with business. It's like, sometimes you have those highs and everything is like going really good. And then you have those lows and you're like, oh crap, like what is next? What am I going to do? The amount of marketing that goes into it, promotion, all the things like how did you balance it? What was your journey like during that year? And I guess too, like what pieces of advice would you maybe give someone that wants to do this?
Hmm. So I kind of went into it like so naive, thinking, well, people are
Okay.
coming to me, right? So this is what business is. You just go on there on your YouTube, you talk about your purpose and like the work that you do, and then it will just come to you. And that is what part of femininity is all about. But it's not all a bed of roses. So I did that. I created my website. I did the whole funnels, automation, lead magnet, all the things that you do when you have a business. But as you say, that conversion, like you might have an audience, you might have people watching you, and people might be interested to receive the free information, but not a lot of people are at the point where they want to invest in themselves or understand the value that you could provide them. Like, what you see on social media or on YouTube is just, it's literally just a snippet
Mm.
of the transformation that somebody can have, as opposed to if they work with you on a one-to-one
Right.
basis. I'm sure you know that as a businesswoman as well. But that conversion, so I did it all. I did invested in business coaches as well. The free content, my messaging, the more I really put everything into it, because I'm really one of those people that, if I want something, I will kind of put my, if I put my mind to something, I will put my all into it. That's part of the hustle culture, where I'm not shy to hard work. But it just wasn't breeding the results that I wanted. And I thought,
Mhm.
what's the issue here? What is the disconnect? And I
Yeah.
realized that I was pulling myself in kind of different directions, right? If somebody says this is what works, and then I will do that. If somebody says this is what works, this is what I'll do. If I'd come across you and I thought, oh, Jasmine's really successful, and I feel like she's doing this, let me do that. I was
Mhm.
kind of following in the footsteps of other people's purpose and journey, and I wasn't really aligning with myself. And I always say that money is attracted to purpose, right?
Mhm.
If you're just into something for the sake of, oh, I just want to make money, I just want to put food on the table, and if there's no bigger why, like as to why you're doing something, like money is going to be um like, who are you? I want nothing to do with you. It's just going to run away from you. But when
Yeah.
you start to follow your own path and understand your reason for being, and you're walking firmly within your purpose, that's when things start aligning, and doors start opening, and that's what my journey was.
Mhm.
So instead of looking outwards at like what people say business should be, or what success looks like, and falling for the trap of like, oh, you can earn this amount in this I understood what abundance meant to me, number one, and I understood what my purpose was,
Mhm.
and my own way of doing things. The way that I'm going to share my message is going to be different to the way that another person is going to share the message. It might have maybe the same result, but we're doing it in a completely different way. And
Mhm.
just by leaning into that, it just clicked and just made things so much easier for me, that I wasn't having to work as hard as I was before. So whereas I was, for 2 to 3 years struggling to make ends meet, within the space of a year, my YouTube channel started growing.
Mhm.
I started getting more speaker invitations, paid speaker invitations. I started having brands reach out to me. So it just opened up in that way, because I was now walking within my purpose. Now, that's not to say that I wasn't putting in any work, but now the work that I was doing was aligned with where I was going, with who I was becoming.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that about creating your own authentic path, like in business, because with all the trends that come on social media, it's very easy to like blow with the wind whenever it
Mhm.
comes to a topic of like business or abundance or anything like that. So it's good to hear that you recognize how powerful it is to just be yourself and
Mm,
fall into like what really speaks to you. And as your experience showed, like you winded up getting blessings from that. It's your gifts. I believe in that verse, your gifts make room for you. And
mm,
in that room is abundance. And so if
mm,
use and tap into those gifts and do things within your own authenticity, I just think that it opens up everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just think knowing that God wants us to, He wants us to be abundant. He doesn't want us to go without. He wants us to be prosperous. Understanding that wealth is your birthright. I've heard you say that as well, and I thought this is where I aligned with you. Wealth is your birthright, and understanding that at your core is just the how you get to it is really none of your business. Like God will lead you there. The result is you're going to get there.
Yeah.
That's without question. Um, and it might look differently to how you have it in your own head. It's good
Mhm.
to have vision, it's good to have desire of what you want, but that shouldn't also cloud you and stop you from going with what God is telling you to do, because He also knows what's best for you, and
Right.
what's going to make you fulfilled at the end of the day. Because happiness is fleeting. We want peace and we want fulfillment.
Hmm. Yeah, and I found that even like in my own journey of work, like there are certain things that I turn down, or some things I start doing because I have to have that ultimate fulfillment. Like there is something I'm doing to help others and just elevate, people's lives. So I totally get that. I do
Mm.
want to tap in and ask about um abundance from a feminine perspective, because I think everyone considers, oh, if I want to make money, I have to go out there and like get it. And
Mhm,
while I do believe that sometimes a little hustle is involved,
mhm.
right? Maybe at the start or at certain seasons, how do you balance and bring that femininity in so the money can multiply?
Mm. I always say that abundance is linked to femininity and living a soft life. And the reason that I say that is because abundance is believing that there is plentiful, there's a lot to go around,
Mhm.
and you are deserving of it, right? And one of the reasons why I was struggling to tap into my own abundance was because of that masculinity, and also because of that lack mindset, that there isn't a lot to go around. I have to work hard, I have to be in competition, right? Whereas femininity is about attracting. So um instead of, you could be working for 20 years in the same job, and you're one of the hardest working people. One of the most hardest working people are the one of the most people who struggle the most. So many people
Mhm.
who work in the food industry, people who work in the healthcare industry, they're working overtime. So it's not really about hard work, it's about um attracting and not chasing. But
Mhm.
with that comes believing of like you're deserving of it, believing of your worthiness, because you can't just tell somebody to be still if they don't believe that something is going to happen. Like you have to have unrealistic expectations and unrealistic desires, and I call that delulu faith, right? There has to be a sprinkle of delusion that in there, that that 5 bedroom mansion, that I'm going to have that, even when your circumstances and your current now is telling you that is not going to happen.
Mhm.
Masculinity is about doing, hence the go out and make money and work hard, whereas femininity is about doing, is about being. It's
Mhm.
about the experience of it, the journey. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So when you're kind of letting go and detaching sometimes from the action, because I used to do this thing where, and I would have you heard about the 12-week year?
No, I have not heard about that.
So it's a book by, is it James Morang, Brian Morang, Brian and James, I can't remember their surname, and it's basically about like it's a productivity book about reaching your goals in 12 weeks. So
Mm,
instead of saying having your yearly goals, you have those goals within 12 weeks. And I love the principle of being able to achieve your goals quicker. But what I
right.
soon realized what it was based on masculine principles, because for you to achieve quick, you have to do more in less time,
Mm,
right? And I thought I spent 2 years using that principle and I didn't amount to anything. It didn't work for me. It didn't align with me and who I was, right?
yeah.
So, um, because again, masculinity is about doing. If you're just constantly doing, and not experiencing and not allowing yourself to be multifaceted, to be creative, to be a visionary, right?
Mhm.
And using the source, what you have within, to kind of guide you, your purpose, you will end up in the same place year after year, year after year.
Mhm.
And you're like, what? But what? I'm doing all the things. I'm doing what people are telling me to do. No, abundance is believing that you're deserving, but femininity is about being. So combining those principles, I believe, is what will make women successful. And I hear a lot of people who say, "Well, can't men use this principle? Are you saying it only works for women?" No, like what you said, there's different seasons. There's a season where you have to put in the work, and
Mhm.
then there's a season where you have to kind of just let go and detach and let what be. So in the fourth quarter of the year is my hustle season, for example. Is the busiest time, of my business, and the first quarter as well. And then the second and fourth, third quarter, I'm in like holiday mode,
Mm.
kind of just like, allowing myself to just be and not work as hard. Things are more automated that way. So femininity is not laziness. It's not doing anything. It's just understanding that we are built differently. Our cycle is every 28 days, whereas with men it's every 24 hours. So if I'm not going to be productive during this, why am I even putting in the effort? I'm working hard and it's not giving me the results that I want anyway. I might as well just like be still, and then when I do have the energy and the motivation, and then I can put in the work.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. Masculine and feminine energy works like hand in hand, and
Mm,
I think for some people they think they only need to use that masculine, but that femininity is a part of what really balances things out and it
mm,
makes life more enjoyable. Another
mm,
thing that I heard you say was about like those quick manifestations. I was like that. Like I literally would like get something really quick and of course, congrats, proud of it. But was it sustainable all of the time? No, it
mm.
wasn't. Can you maybe share more about how femininity makes your manifestations more sustainable, especially in like the area of money? Because I've seen a lot of people just, and myself, burn out so quickly because everything is, but that's what they tell us, on social media. That's what you have to do. But what about makes it, and especially I can see you have more sustainability. You are being
Mhm.
able to thrive. Like, what keeps that going for you?
I think the experience and the journey, you really have to be present and in the moment. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but I think just the gratitude of where you are, what you have, where you have been from. So I do this thing every month. I call it my gratitude small wins, where I share on my platforms, my monthly small wins. It keeps me grounded to be like, instead of just looking onwards, like in 2024, I must have achieved this. No, this month I have achieved this. And that makes me, gratitude just gives me life. It grounds me, it gives me peace,
Mhm.
and it removes that need of action, because I have this, and reminds me that abundance is coming and allows me to lean into that. And it also allows me to enjoy the process of it, because femininity is about being. So you have to be, so you know, when we're getting ready to go out to eat, right? As
Mhm.
women, we enjoy the process of getting ready, you know, doing your hair and your makeup. It's all part of the process. So
Mhm.
when it comes to making money, instead of just like, oh, I need to hit six figures or seven figures or whatever, you know, enjoying that process and enjoying the process of the failure, because femininity doesn't mean that you're not going to fail. It just, you know, it just means that it's easier to deal with. You're able to pick yourself back up because you
Mhm.
understand that it is a journey, but you know that it's coming. The abundance is inevitable, it's coming. So you're able to kind of deal with setbacks when things go wrong, when things don't go well. Okay, how can I learn from this? How can I pick myself back up? And you enjoy the process. You celebrate the small wins. You allow yourself to switch off, and you listen to the resistance. You know,
Mhm.
I have a lot of people asking me like, "How are you so disciplined?" And you know, but you also preach about femininity. Well, two things, as you said, masculinity and femininity work hand in hand. And you know, we need a masculine structure in order for us to be feminine, and
Mhm.
that's where discipline comes in. You know, discipline is a form of masculinity, right? So like I said, you know, you have to have times where, you know, you are putting in that work and understanding if you do lack discipline, where are you lacking in that sense? Is it a sense of because of how you grew up? Maybe you grew up in a single parent household and you didn't have that masculine structure. Does it
Mhm.
show up in your relationship? Are you looking outside, right? Because God, you know, has given us that self-discipline. There's a verse that says, you know, I have given you the love and the discipline already. You have that within yourself. So instead of looking outward to be like, well, I need to be disciplined. I need to have this masculine person or this masculine structure outside. It's already within you. You just
Yeah.
have to be able to tap into it. But when there's resistance, sometimes it's not a lack of discipline, sometimes it's your feminine intuition telling you that maybe you shouldn't be doing that. If something feels too hard, there's a difference between hard and challenging. If something feels too hard, it's not for you. Challenging is like understanding that things are not going to be smooth sailing all the time, and you have to kind of like put in the work. But if there's a resistance, as women, we feel everything in our body. If your heart is beating too tight, too much, it's like
Mhm.
it's communicating with you, you know, something is happening. If you're feeling too lazy, I guess, to do something, you know, sometimes listening to that, because when you ignore it, you keep on doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. What is that insanity? What is that toxic productivity? Because you're not going to get the results that you want. Listen to your own voice, listen to yourself, but listen to your body and listen to your intuition. It won't lead you astray. So that's what I would say. Enjoying the process,
Mhm.
enjoying the journey, just being, listening to your body. That's what creates that sustainability.
Absolutely. Our bodies are what I believe is like a sacred portal. And in that sacred portal that we live is everything that we need. That's how I feel that God made us. And when you said listening to your body, it just really spoke to me because for me, I feel things in my gut. And I also give myself like a night to sleep on something before I make a decision. And that has led to so many incredible things by just like really listening in and slowing down to see what my body is saying. When you're in that dominant masculine energy, you're not going to listen to your body. And as you mentioned, it's like you keep hitting a brick wall, another brick wall. If you keep hitting those same brick walls over and over again, it might, quite frankly, it might not either be for you or you need to pivot and do
Mhm,
something different. What would
mhm,
you say to a person who is like in business and maybe they're starting off and they just keep hitting that brick wall, what might you recommend to help them get over that hump? Because
Mhm.
I do recall in one of your videos you were talking about like, coaching and doing different things. And then I also heard you say like you have seasons in which you move. How would you recommend them to like move forward on that?
I can relate with that woman so deeply.
Mhm.
In When I first started my business, I was doing it all. Okay, I was having a monthly webinar. I have a newsletter and I was sending out a newsletter every week. I was doing 2 to 3 videos in a week. I would have 3 to 5 coaching sessions in a day, right? Because I had a target of how much money I wanted to make
Mhm.
um in a month, right? Did I reach that target? No, I did not reach that target. I was constantly just going, and I'm a very resilient person.
Mhm.
Again,
Yeah.
that hustle mentality. I have that in me. You got to work hard. You got to keep going. You know, um, so I kept on going, and I kept on going, and I kept on going, and I kept on going until my body just stopped. I just couldn't. I just did
Mhm.
not have it in me. So I just had to stop. Um, and then I also had to give myself the permission to stop, to slow down. And it was within that slowing down that I realized that my messaging was wrong. Like, you know, people started relating to me and understanding my when I slowed down, because I was talking about things that I thought that I should be talking about. I was
Mhm.
doing things that I thought I should be doing. I was, following all different kinds of advice from everyone. One minute I've worked with this person, or you're not working, I'm letting you go. I'm going to work with this person. Just jumping from here to here to here. So I had to stop. That's what I would say. Sometimes if there's a lot of resistance,
Mhm.
it's your intuition, and it's also God telling you to stop,
Yeah.
because again, God knows where he wants you to go. The how, like I always say, is none of your business, and you're focused on the how. Like, well, if I want to get here, I should do this and I should do that. No, 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 no. Only God knows your path and what path, the right path that you should be taking. So
Mm.
sometimes slow down, give your time, give yourself the headspace. It doesn't mean that you're a failure, right? And I felt that in that moment, that I have failed. Maybe I should stop this whole business thing, this whole coaching thing. It's not for me. And giving myself telling myself stories because of where I had ended up. It was kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecies, those negative core beliefs, those limiting beliefs that I had were kind of being um, fulfilling themselves because I had failed. Um, but within that slowing down that I just started doing content that resonated with me instead of doing content that I saw other people doing, or
Yeah.
that I thought would do well, chasing virality, chasing the views, or copying what other people was doing. I started doing things that I was aligned to me. So I mentioned about the 12-week year. I used to do a lot of content based on that, to be like, if you want to be successful, you need to do this, that, and the other. But at the same time, it didn't feel right to me, because it was like I was working too hard,
Mhm.
and it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel good. And I thought, even if I become successful, the way that I'm becoming successful doesn't feel good because I'm working more. Why am I working more in a business where compared to when I had a job? The whole reason you want to have a business is that you work less and you have more
Yeah.
time and you make more money. But I'm working more and making less money. Make that make sense, please. Like, it wasn't the math was not mathing. So
Yeah.
I slowed down, and I would say to that woman, I know it's the worst thing the last thing you want to hear right now. I know it doesn't sound productive. I know it goes against everything that you've been told, but slow down. Listen to yourself, listen to what your body is telling you, listen to what your mind is telling you, listen to yourself and follow your own purpose, because money is attracted to purpose.
Mhm. Absolutely. I could not agree with you more, especially on the slowing down part. And I wouldn't say that you can't have goals, but how you achieve those goals, I think, should be more loose. At least for me, that's what I have found. When I had hardcore, if I don't reach these goals, it was like I was so focused on it. I wasn't enjoying the journey. Didn't feel good in my body because I was just focused on a number.
Mhm.
And life is more than a number. And now
Absolutely.
that I flow, like I have found myself being able to make more and more money because I just let things happen. I'm not trying to like force it. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, if and this is just me. I'm like, all right, if I'm gonna have a high week, I have a high week. If I have a low week, I have a low week. I don't care. I'm
Mhm.
still going to, do what fulfills me. I'm gonna still do my work. I'm just gonna still do the things that I do, but I'm not letting it determine if I failed or making it mean something about me. And
Mhm.
I think that's what a lot of people kind of struggle with is that they're always so caught up on the numbers and the views and all of those things. But as I look at your channel, since I actually found you, you are growing. You're like viral right now. I don't know if, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm like, yes. So that speaks to, what you are saying. Like it's working for you.
No, it's just I think it only hit me a couple of weeks ago when I reached a milestone that I had been trying to reach for the last 4 years, and I reached it in 3 weeks. You know, so yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I had been stuck in the same place for 3 years, 3 years, and within 3 weeks I reached that milestone. So I would say every beginning of every year I'm gonna reach this amount of subscribers at the end of the year. Everything I'm gonna reach it, and it will never happen, never happen. The moment I let go of that, and I love when you, because I always say that you need to loosen up on those goals, loosen up on those goals. Don't, you know, don't become obsessive with them. Love them from afar, want them from afar, desire them from afar, and just live your life and just take the aligned action and have the belief in yourself and the belief in God that the abundance is coming. And just leave and just be and
Mhm.
just be and just enjoy your life. Do the things that make you happy. Go out if you like to go out to restaurants, if you like self-care, if you like whatever it is, live your life. Don't say, once I become successful and once I start earning this amount of money, then I'll be able to do this. No, become that person now.
Mhm.
Become her today, because it starts showing you that it is possible. When I say lean into the abundance that's coming, you have to believe it. So how can you believe it if you're not living that life, if you don't have the same kind of thoughts? So
Mhm.
I had to immerse myself into the identity of who I wanted to be. Right? What does she look like? That what kind of things that she do in the morning. I used to wake up at 5 in the morning because people say that the early bird gets the worm, but I'm not an early riser. So I just started listening to my own body. I have the luxury of not having to wake up at a certain time because I don't work a 9 to 5. So why am I forcing myself to exist in a 9 to 5 capacity?
Mhm.
Why do I not utilize this fact? So every single thing about my identity, I shifted it to who I wanted to be, instead of saying, once I do this, and then I will stop doing this. And once I
Right.
have more money, and then I'll be able to afford this. Well, you can afford that if you let go of certain things, perhaps. You can afford that if maybe you're not having it every day. Maybe you treat yourself once every month, but you're having that experience. You are being who she is. You are feeling it. And it's the at the end of the day, you want to be successful and you want to be wealthy because you want to feel a certain way. So give yourself that feeling is free. Give
Yeah.
yourself that feeling now instead of waiting for a tangible thing to happen, like an exterior thing to happen. The feeling that you feel that you're yearning for is what's going to take you to where you want to go. Because once you feel at peace, or once you feel like you belong, once you feel abundant, the peace that comes with that, again, to be able to take any knockbacks that comes, I promise you, is priceless, is worth more than anything that a lot of people desire. Because life is not without its challenges. Life is going to life no matter what. But when you have that faith, the delulu faith, and that peace, you can be like, okay, it wasn't for me. I'm not supposed to have it this way, but it's coming, or it's not supposed to happen this way. You let go to that goal that you hold on to so tightly, and then it starts happening. I promise you, it just starts happening. I don't know how, but it starts happening by itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. And it's so much easier when it's that way, as opposed to
Mm,
forcing things to happen, or manifestations. They just don't work. And
no.
it's kind of like you'll be disappointed each time because you're trying to make something happen, as
Mm,
opposed to allowing things to flow the way
mhm,
that they need to flow. You also said another word that I heard a couple times, which was deservingness.
mhm, mhm,
What would you say, especially to a woman who may have started off, and I know I've shared this here on the podcast for listeners, but I grew up in, poverty and all of those things. Like, how do you get someone like that to think I deserve this type of lifestyle, or that, okay, abundance is my birthright? How? Like, I was born into all of this. This doesn't make sense.
mhm, mhm. Again, I can relate to her so much, that woman, because again, that's the space that I came from. I used to exist in a lack and a scarcity. So how can I deserve it when this is my reality? And
Mhm.
how you can understand it is getting into the deep root cause. A lot of people focus more on putting a band-aid on the wound, instead of actually healing the wound. I get a lot of people asking me, sending me DMs and even writing in their comments, and you're not even going into detail about the how, you did it. You're not sharing the step by step. Well, and I ignore those comments because you're focusing on the wrong things. You want to put a band-aid on your issue. You just want a quick fix, you know. Abundance is not a quick fix. It's not a get rich quick scheme. That's not what I believe in, and that's not what I preach, and that's not what I share. Okay. So I'm not going to co-sign that kind of mentality. Um you have to understand why you are in a place of unbelieving. So if somebody says to you, "Oh, I believe I believe that I'm going to have a child next year," and maybe they have been struggling to have a child, or "I believe that I am going to earn this amount," and you're looking at them and thinking, "What? How?"
Mhm.
If that's always your thought process of like, that's not possible. If your instinct is to always say it's not possible, it's not going to work, right? It's showing that there's a deeper reason as to why
Yeah.
you don't believe that something is possible, right? You
Mhm.
don't believe it because you don't feel like it's you're deserving of it, right? And it's understanding, okay, what stories, because I mentioned my story, right? What is your own story? You know, I grew up as an immigrant. I grew up hearing certain stories that relating to money. I grew up being told that you have to work hard. You know, there's rice at home, so you can't have McDonald's. You know, you have to compete. You have to be the best. You know, perfectionism, A-star student. Um, I grew up being told all those things, and that shaped me as a person. It shaped my beliefs, it shaped the way I felt, and it shaped my actions, right? You
Mhm.
can't just change your actions without changing the way that you think, but you have to understand the way that you think first. So I would say that's what I would say to her. You know, why do you believe that you're not deserving? What stories did you grow up hearing about money? What is your relationship with money? Do you have a healthy relationship with money, or do you have a toxic relationship with money? And when people hear that, they might think, oh, it's not just having a toxic relationship is just about, not being generous and, keeping it all together. I have been both spectrums of toxicity when it comes to money. I have been the, keeping it close and not sharing and, thinking that it's going to run out. And then also the overspending, right? Because, you know, it might all go to bills, so I might as well just buy that designer handbag and be left with nothing. But at least I have the designer handbag. So understanding how your relationship with money shows up in your day-to-day life. You
Mhm.
have to be honest with yourself and have those honest conversations with yourself, right? You can't want more if you don't even understand how to look after the little that you have, first of all. If you don't
Yeah.
understand why, um, if you don't believe that more is possible, if you have to believe in the impossible, right? There's a verse that says you do not have because you do not ask. So it doesn't say that you should ask for little. It doesn't say that you're only deserving of this. No, it's saying that God will give you everything if you ask for it. So you have to believe that that's possible. If I'm to say, God, I want this, you have to believe that He's going to
Mhm.
provide that for you. If you don't, then there's a deeper wound that you need to care and look at and understand why. That's the stories you grew up being told, that the people that were around you, maybe the relationships that you had, everything that has shaped you to who you are, and now it impacts the way that you think, the way that you feel, and then the way that you act. I would say you need to go back to the basics, and then also look at your relationship with money and how that's showing up in your life. Are you an overspender or are you an underspender? Because you
Yeah.
you you know you have to be responsible with money, but you also have to invest in yourself. I hope this won't offend people, anyone who's listening, but I used to love like cheap clothes like Shein and stuff like that. I know people say, I would never spend this amount on clothes when I can get the same thing on Shein, because I didn't feel like I deserved to have high quality products. I didn't feel
Mhm.
I was waiting until I earned more money. But you have to invest in yourself, whether that's in the clothes that you want to wear, whether it's in the knowledge, like, well, I would never pay that much for a coach, or I would never pay. Well, then you're going to remain in the same place. You have to invest in yourself.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that you have to be overspending. It's just finding that balance, really. So that's what I would say to her.
Yeah, no, I definitely 100% agree that investments are important in order to amplify the results that you want to have. Like, even for me, like, I invested in this emerald as a sign of wealth. I always keep gold on me somewhere
Mm,
as a sign of wealth. Like, those are important, attractive things that bring wealth to you. That's on an energetic, spiritual level. But then, even
mm,
when you get more practical to things, that when you're talking about your clothing, your education, the knowledge, the tools, like, that is a big reason why I think that I am where I am, is because I applied the knowledge that I've learned along the way, and it does work for you. If you don't invest in yourself, who else will?
Mm.
That's just not something that people want to always do. So you gotta be that for you. And also, when I was listening to you sharing your advice to that woman who doesn't have that faith, one thing that helped me too is the trust.
Mm.
Do I have trust in God? And if I don't, something happened along the way that made me not trust in Him.
Mm.
And that
Mhm.
was a really deep, eye-opening thing for me, especially around money, because it's like, why don't I trust in the Father? What happened with my relationship with God? I This is my personal opinion. My relationship with God is my relationship with everything. So if
Amen.
I'm struggling with money in some sort, I must be struggling with my trust in my Father.
Mhm.
And it just helps. And even in my marriage, when I'm struggling in my marriage, it's probably because it's something I'm missing in my relationship with God, or maybe I'm not seeing something He wants me to see, or doing something that I need to be doing. And that opened my eyes to abundance. And I think that's kind of like going into my last question. What would you say? Because I know that, you are also a believer, and that was another thing that I loved learning about you. What would you say in your relationship with your spirituality and abundance, femininity, soft life? Like, how has that maybe made your relationship with God, or improved your life? What would you say to someone who just wants to make that connection?
Mm. Mm. I I started off, my faith was so strong. I grew up in a Christian household, went to church every Sunday,
Mm,
you know, my mom was a very prayerful woman, and I think she lived a very abundant life as a result. Um, and I always and things always used to come naturally for me, and used always used to happen for me, And I just always thought, well, that that's my story. I don't really know about everybody else, but with me, it kind of like happens. Not really associating that with, again, my relationship with God. But when my mom passed away in 2020, I was very angry with God. I was very angry with God. How
mhm,
could you take her away from me? How can they be a God who would allow this to happen? She's one of the most purest souls. I even went as far as saying, you should have taken me instead of her, because she was that pure. She had so much more to give and to offer the world than I do. So I lost my faith for a long time. And as you said, my life was disarray. When I tell you, every part of my life fell apart. The
mm,
moment my mom passed away, the moment I gave up on God, my relationship, my my job, my friendships, my mental health,
mm,
my self-worth, everything went into shambles,
mm,
right? And I always remember when I was younger, people, like, you go to church, and the pastor would say, you have a gift, you have a gift, you have a gift. And I was working on that before, and then I completely just forgot God. And it was only everything just happened at the same time. The moment when I went onto maternity leave, and I told you that I was hearing that verse, be still and know that I am God. And then I came across um, this video got recommended to me on YouTube. I'm going to forget his name now. It's going to bug me. I'm going to forget his name. And he did a video on the mindset of a true queen. He's a
mm,
preacher. Yes, I can't remember his name. It's going to bug me. And I cried when I watched that video. I absolutely cried, and I realized how everything is is linked to God. Everything that was going wrong in my life was associated with my relationship with God. I had forsaken him. I had turned my back to him. And not that God is forgiving. He would never turn his back against us. He loves us even when we sin, you know. But I it clicked in me that everything was aligned, was connected, you know, and having the mindset of a true queen, when you have that mindset and you believe in God and you know you walk his path, then all aspects of your life will also make sense, you know. So that's why I bring in my faith when I'm talking, because it's all connected, you
Mm,
know. When you believe in God, when you live your life a certain way, and it's not just about going to church, it's who you are as a person, is within your actions and everything, and how you live your life, that also has a think doors also start opening. So I also believe that it's all linked, you know, and it all happened as it should have been. Me becoming more feminine, me you know, reigniting my relationship with God, it
yeah.
it just opened so many doors for me, opened opportunities for me, and then things just started to become easier and to make sense. So yeah.
That is such a beautiful story. Like I love to hear that and love it that you shared that, because I think more people need to know that connection is real, and it's what really makes our lives worth living. And brings us into that abundant state, because when that, to me, when that relationship is on point, everything else is.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I have totally enjoyed having you on. I will be asking you to come back because I know everyone has enjoyed this episode. There's just so much to learn, and I appreciate you. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much, Jasmine, for having me on. This has been so heartwarming. The validation that I have got from speaking to you, the yeah, I have learned so much from you as well. From talking to you and also listening to you. You are femininity to the core, and you know, I just love, you know, being around other, you know, feminine women and women
Mhm.
of God. So thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.